Hello guys, and welcome back to another video here on my channel and another episode of me and Gen Z. Before we get into today's episode, I would just like to remind you that if you have any topics that you feel I need to discuss on these episodes, you can comment them down below. The videos may not go up immediately because I would really like to do my research and have all the facts before I put out a video discussing things that are really important to all of you. Also, if you like the content that you see, give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to be subscribed and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other videos that I post. And with all of that said, I think it's time for us to get into today's episode. Okay guys, so today's episode may be a little bit shorter because like I said previously, I really don't want it to get repetitive, but some things do touch on other things that I may have mentioned on videos prior to this one, so you may hear some things that I've said before, but I feel like this is kind of a new perspective on it, so I just really wanted to discuss it again. But that's why it may be a little bit of a shorter episode today, because I don't want to repeat myself too much. So last week I did a video or an episode of this podcast where I talked about rebuilding bridges that you have burnt, and that was basically about resolving issues that you've left unresolved and that are having a really negative impact on your life, because unresolved issues do have that effect on our life. Or actually asking for forgiveness when you were wrong, or forgiving someone who has wronged you. I did also mention in that specific episode that sometimes resolving an issue and forgiving someone doesn't necessarily mean that that person now needs to play a role in your life. It's just a chance for you to forgive, resolve, and move on so that you can remove that negativity or that thing that has been hanging over your head from your life and actually move forward. So no, the person doesn't necessarily have to come back into your life, but resolving that issue will do more for you in the long run, because it will give you just the freedom to let go of that issue or let go of that person, knowing that you did all that you can to make sure that it ended on a good note if that relationship had to end, and you resolved all the issues that needed to be resolved. Or you at least tried from your side. Maybe the other person wasn't really receptive to it, but then at least knowing that you tried will give you that peace of mind to move on with your life. And this is kind of where today's episode starts. We are really good at removing toxic people from our lives, or at least that's what social media has led me to believe, because that is what is like on every single positive vibes quote page on Instagram. Remove the toxic people from your life. Don't be afraid to cut off some people who are toxic in your life. And I agree with those 100%. If someone is having a toxic effect on your life or influencing your life negatively, of course you can cut cords with them. 100% agree with that. But this is where my question comes in. Why is it so easy for us to cut off toxic people, but we keep our toxic habits? Now, of course, this isn't everyone. Some people are actually really good at ending toxic habits, but habits are habits for a reason. And just before I get into this is not me calling out anyone, because I'm also guilty of this. I also struggle with certain habits that I know have a negative effect on my life. And I think I really would like to actually try to change them. But why is it so easy for us to just cut off toxic people? But you never really see much about ending toxic habits. Once upon a time, that is not the correct phrase. Once every now and then, that's what I was looking for. Once every now and then you may see a quote about end your toxic habits, but it's not really as prevalent as cut off toxic people. And I think both are important, because yes, toxic people are toxic. You need to get that negativity out of your life by perhaps telling them, listen, I don't think this friendship or relationship is working out. I really need to get rid of negativity in my life. 100% we should do that. But we keep toxic habits, and those toxic habits keep us negative. Now, the reason I say that this may sound a little repetitive, because some of those toxic habits are things that I've discussed before. For example, social media. Yes, I'm back on that train again. I know I've discussed it quite a lot. And like I always say before I start going on this rant is, that of course there are really positive things that came from social media. The fact that we can connect with anyone around the world, the fact that people can grow a business or actually make social media their business. Of course, I notice and recognize the positive effects of social media. But do you notice the negative effects? Do you notice how you can't really be alone anymore? Like, think about it. I was sitting in a Starbucks today, waiting for someone, and I immediately started scrolling. And I was like, am I that addicted to social media that I can literally not just sit by myself for 5 minutes and not touch my phone? And so I made a challenge as like, I'm not touching my phone until the person I was waiting for arrives. And I managed. It was tough, but I managed, and I was able to notice new things, look at like the shops around me, the people around me, and it's quite fascinating. Now, of course, not everything on social media is negative. Sometimes you get really positive posts on there that are good. But the reason why I'm saying social media, and it's actually in particular the news, the news cycle. The news cycle is never really that positive. You get one positive story perhaps at the end of a news bulletin or a post or an article, but the news is predominantly negative because we live in a predominantly negative world, which is quite sad. But we let that into our psyche, and I've told you about that before. The things you read, the things you listen to, the things you watch do actually have an influence on your mental health and how positive or how negative you feel. You may not think it does, but it does. Try not watching the news for 1 week and try to notice if you have a difference. Now, I know that the news is important to watch because there are certain things that impact us directly and we need to stay informed. I agree. But that is not where we end it. We don't stop watching once that portion of what affects us is over. We keep watching and we see all the negativity happening in the world. And of course, ignoring the fact that there are bad things happening is not really a good idea, because perhaps you can actually, help and contribute to lessening the bad happening. So of course, there needs to be a balance, is what I'm trying to say. With everything in life, balance is the key. Because if you allow the negativity of the news cycle and social media to completely take over your life, then you can cut off as many toxic people as you want, but those toxic habits are not going to end, and your negativity is going to increase. Another thing that I talked about previously, and I don't want the people to take this the wrong way, but I talked about a couple of weeks ago, is your diet making you depressed, and how our nutrition now is severely lacking in important minerals and vitamins which actually help with our brain function, and serotonin and dopamine to actually balance our moods and actually make us a little happier. How our modern diets are actually lacking in these vitamins and minerals, and actually the negative effects that fast foods and processed foods have on our brain. Okay, I'm not getting into all of that. If you really want to watch the episode, I will link it in the description or up here so you can watch the full thing. But yeah, I discussed that as well. And that's another thing. Like today, again, I was sitting in Starbucks and I was so close to ordering my favorite thing, which I know is not good for me. But I once again challenged myself. Okay, can you order something even a little bit healthier? Can you put in one less sachet of sugar, things like that, or sweetener, whatever it is you use? And I tried to challenge myself with that, because once in a while may not be a toxic habit, but if it's every single time you go into the shop, that's what you get, then it may not be so good for you. And are you actually doing something to increase the positivity in your life? Because yes, we have toxic habits when it comes to social media, scrolling through your phone, scrolling on TikTok for hours. We can't sit alone by ourselves and just look at, something nice out in the world. The news cycle is predominantly negative. Our world is predominantly negative. But if we don't seek out positivity and we don't try to block negativity, we can block people. We block people all the time. We block contacts. We block people who call us who are annoying. We block people on social media because toxic people need to go away. Agreed. But why do we not block our toxic habits? Why do we keep our toxic habits in our lives and expect our lives to become more positive? that doesn't make any sense to me. And like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm not calling anyone out, because again, I do this too. I can cut off people quite easy, okay, because I am usually not a very social person. I like my circle of people that I have, and those are my people, and then maybe we can become friends. It's gonna take a while, but cutting off people for me is not, if I recognize that you are not having a good or positive effect on my life, I'm sorry, goodbye. Like, I'm not saying if someone's going through a problem, you cut them off. If someone's going through a problem and you can help, that is something completely different. But if someone's draining the positivity out of your life, that, cut them off. But cutting off toxic habits, cutting off negative habits, we can't seem to actually do that. We block people, but we don't block those habits. We don't block the negative news that's constantly being bombarding our brains. We don't stop reading the negative things that makes us depressed. We don't stop eating the foods that are severely influencing our mindset and making us depressed. We cut off negative people, but we keep negative habits. Do you guys see the problem? You can't just do one, because then it's not going to help. You need to, and of course, like I said, you can in a way find ways to cope with some of the bad news, because you're not going to completely block bad news out of your life. That's impossible. But once you actually get better coping mechanisms, which I actually discussed in a previous video as well, how to cope, how to deal with anxiety, how to deal with bad news, once you can actually start doing that, maybe you can actually look at the bad news and rationalize it and actually handle it better. But for now, I think if you find that this is severely impacting your mental health and the negativity is just overwhelming, you should try cutting it out completely, even if it's just for a week. Do it for a week and notice the difference. Do it for 1 week and notice the difference. That's all I'm saying. It's easy for us to cut off negative people, but negative habits, and like I said, habits are habits for a reason, but maybe we should actually start paying attention to that as well. And that is my speech for today. That is today's episode. Like I said, it is a bit shorter because a lot of the things that I could have added onto this video, I've already discussed in previous episodes, and I don't want it to be too repetitive, okay? That is not what I'm trying to do. I do want to get fresh content, fresh ideas up here, so I don't want it to be too repetitive. So if you want to discuss anything else, you can comment down below, or if you think I missed something, just go check this playlist that will probably be on the end of this video to see if perhaps I have discussed anything in a previous episode. And that is it from me today, guys. I really hope you have a fantastic day and a fantastic week, and I will see you again soon, or chat to you again soon if you're a listener. Goodbye, guys.